Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are once again starting with my crochet setup because this is going to be the most simple beginner tutorial ever. All you need to do is chains, half double crochet, and then chains again. So we're not even going to do like increases, decreases. You could definitely add that if you want to. I just want this to be something every beginner can make. And I have a couple examples to show you. This one was the first one that I made, and I call it like the strawberry top because of like the color pattern. And then I have this one, which is like s'mores top. And then I have this one, which I did actually make for another one of these videos, but I don't know if you can notice the gaps are just so much bigger, and it's because I used a different hook size against my better judgment. So I'm going back to my trusty 4.25mm hook for this one. So the materials you're going to need are, first, yarn. I would recommend getting acrylic yarn in weight 4. This is loops and threads. And then again, I have a 4.25mm hook, a darning needle, and scissors. We have two options to starting off the top. So the first one is doing chains. You're going to make a slip knot, wrapping the yarn around your fingers and looping it through. Again, wrapping around your fingers and pulling through. And then you're going to start doing chains. So holding the yarn in between your fingers like so, and you're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook, yarn over, pull through yarn on your hook, and that's a chain. So we're going to do a bunch of these. And basically, if you're doing this method, you want it to go pretty much from like the edge of one shoulder blade around the front to the edge of the other shoulder blade. So obviously this is not that, but I'm going to do a different method, so I'm just using this to show you how to do the stitches. So whatever amount of chains you do, you're going to also do one extra chain because you're not going to crochet into this chain. So I have 10 chains on my hook, and then I'm going to do 11 so that I have 10 stitches. Yarn over, go through both loops of the chain, 1 and 2, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Again, yarning over, going through both loops of your chain, pulling through, yarn over, pull through. And so what you would do is continue this for the rest of your chains. Again, your chains are going to be much longer than this. This is just an example. Okay, and coming up to our last chain, we're going to do the second to last, and then into the last just like normal. Yarning over, go through one, go through the second one, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through all 3. So this is going to be your base row if you're starting off with chains. For the rest of the pattern, you're going to do the exact same thing. So each row, you're going to chain 1 at the beginning, turn your work, and start half double crocheting into that first one. So yarning over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and continuing down the rest of your row. And when you reach the last stitch, you're just going to go into the stitch. You're not going to go into the chain. So if you were to go into the chain, that would be this little loop right there, but you're not going to go into that one because you want to keep the same number of stitches each time. And if you go into that chain, you're going to have an extra stitch each row, so you're going to be increasing each row essentially. And so again, when you're turning, chaining 1 and starting with your half double crochets. So if you're starting off with chains, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to do these rows until it reaches as long as you want the tank top to be. So I would plan it to start from the top, so like reaching at the top where you want it to be, and then start your rows going down until it reaches the length you need it to be. And feel free to like try it on by like holding it up to you and kind of like stretching it a little bit and making sure it fits, just because sometimes you think it's going to go longer than it actually will, and then you try it on and it's super cropped. And then my second method, we are going to do foundation half double crochets. The only reason that I usually start my projects this way is that I don't have to go into chains except for literally the first foundation half double crochet, but you can do the chains, you can do it this way. It really makes no difference except for literally your first row. What you're going to do a foundation half double crochet is chain 1, chain 2, and then you're going to act as if you're starting your half double crochet. So yarning over, and then you're going to go through the side of your chain, yarning over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 3. And there you go. So what you're going to have is a row of your half double crochets and a row of chains, but you're making it at the same time. So doing one more, yarning over, going through those 2 loops, pulling through, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3. And you're going to repeat this for the rest of the row. And the nice thing about this is your chain row, you kind of are stuck if you make it too short, but for this you can keep holding it up, testing to make sure it's wide enough. And again, you want this to reach from one shoulder blade on one side around the front to the other shoulder blade on the other side. And the reason you want it to fit like that is because when you are tying a top together with chains, you seriously do not realize how much tighter it's going to be once it's actually on. Like when you have it laying on a surface, you're going to think, wow, this top is way too small. But then once you actually have it on, you're going to tie those chains so much tighter so it actually like stays on. And then that means that it's going to be a lot closer than you think. Let me actually just show you. Whereas if you have it like this, then you can tighten it up. But if you do it too close, you're going to try and tighten it, and then they're going to end up overlapping, and then you're not going to be able to like actually get it to the tightness that you need. And the number of chains or the number of foundation stitches is generally going to depend on every single person, because it's not even like going to fit with typical sizes. It's just going to fit with like the width around that you have. So even if you're like normally a typical extra small or something, there's not a measurement that I have for you that you should use. You just need to measure it up against your body and make sure that it fits. Okay, I just finished my row of foundation half double crochets. And again, you want to test this holding it up and stretching it, because as you can see, it's going to reach a lot longer when you stretch it, and when you have it on, it is going to be stretching. So you don't want to just test it with this length. And so to turn our work, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to start our half double crochets. So yarning over, going through 2 loops, yarning over, pull through, and yarning over, pulling through all 3. Continuing, yarning over, go through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. And we're going to do this exact same thing for the rest of the row and for the rest of the top. So just like we did for when we were starting with chains, you want this to reach just as far down as you want the tank top to reach. So that you can make this full length, you can make it cropped, you can make it like essentially a bralette type of thing. It does not really matter. It's a very simple pattern, but you do just want to keep holding it up to yourself and holding it as if like it's actually on. So you don't want to just like lay it against your skin. You want to like stretch it, pretend like it's like tied on essentially, so that you can see how far down it reaches, if it actually fits the way you want. And you can always also add more rows if you end up finishing the top and you're like, wait, this is shorter than I wanted. But you could always undo some rows too, but it is easier to add more rows, and it's a little more disappointing to undo rows because you did spend time crocheting them. So I'm just going to continue doing my half double crochets, and I would join you at the end of the row to show you how to finish off your row. Alright, we're reaching our last few stitches, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into the second to last, then we're going to go into the last, but we are not going to go into this chain here. So you want each row to have the same number of stitches. I'm not going to count personally because I don't really like having to count the whole time that I'm crocheting, but if it will help you, you can definitely count, even if you just count what the first row is. But the reason that we're not going to go into that last chain is because we went into the first stitch. If we skipped the first stitch, then we would go into the chain so that it would have the same number of stitches as the first row, but I feel like it's easiest to remember to not have to skip anything except for something at the end. To turn our row, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and continue with our half double crochets starting from that first stitch. And then I will show you this row, and after that I will come back to you once I've finished this section of the top. So every single row after this, you're going to start with a chain 1, turn your work, and then half double crochet into every single stitch until the end of the row. You're going to skip crocheting into that chain, and then you're going to chain one and half double crochet into your next row. And again, you want to keep trying it on, testing to see if it's long enough. And it's completely normal if your top is curling like the way that mine is. You can just flatten it out, but once you get further along, it's not going to like want to curl. It's just because we only have a few rows so far. All right, coming out to our last few stitches, we're going to go into the second to last and then the last. And the way that you're going to tell where the chain is, it's this little like tiny loop right there. Because you only have one chain, it's going to be harder to see than if you had multiple chains, but it is that just like crossed over loop on the side. And then we're going to chain one and turn our work. And then I will come back to you once I've finished this section. So again, repeating these rows of half double crochets until it reaches the length that you want. Okay, I just finished my rows. I ended up doing 15. And so next, what you're going to do is chain one, and you can cut off your work and then pull it through and tighten it. And so now what we're going to do is the straps. So what we're going to do is just literally chain a long amount. I think I'm going to go for like around 100, but I don't think I'm going to count. But you're going to make your slip knot and do a ton of chains. And then once I've finished these chains, I will come back to you and show you how to loop them through so that you can use it to tie. And then as you chain, you can kind of lay it across as if you're going to actually tie it on to see if it's long enough. So obviously this is not long enough, but you can keep doing this as you go to see how long it needs to be. All right, and once you get to the end of your chains, you're going to chain one extra and cut the yarn. And then you're going to take the end, put your hook through like the top corner, grab onto your chain and pull it through. And then do the same thing on the other side, going through the corner and pulling it through. And then I'm gonna go every few down, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, go from the bottom, grab the yarn, pull through. Other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Grab the yarn and pull through. And just repeat that all the way down. And then instead of forcing two to go in this small space, I'm just gonna go right down to the bottom corner and pull it through. And there you go. You could actually leave it here and make it a tube top, but I am going to add straps. So what you're gonna do is try it on, find the spot that you want and like mark it somehow or like tuck your yarn through, and then we can attach the yarn. So I'm just gonna pull the yarn through, tie it on, and then you can either do chains, so pulling through like so and chaining along until you get the length you want, doing an extra one and then slip stitching into this side and then chaining one, cutting off your work. Or what I'm going to do is just make it a single piece of yarn as my strap. So I'm just going to measure it up against what I already had, but you can try it on and measure how long it needs to be. It's about there, and then a little extra for the tie. Cut it off, and then pull through in the back and tie it on. Same thing on the other side, hooking my yarn, pulling through and tying it on, measuring the length, cutting a little bit extra, and then going into the back, pulling it through, and then tying it on. And then the last step we have is weaving in the ends. So if you lay the yarn over your hook, over your needle, pull it off the side and kind of wiggle it through. And then you just kind of want to weave it through the sides and through the actual stitches. Going into the stitch, out the side. Doesn't need to be an exact pattern, just weaving it through so it goes through a couple times and then you can cut it off. And then I'll show you one more and then I will come back once I'm done weaving in my ends. Through both loops and to the side, both loops. and out the top. Alright, now we've completely finished the tank top. Now the ends are weaved in, and hopefully you have finished your tank top too, or your tube top if you decide not to use straps. If you guys make this, please make sure to tag me. I would love to see what colors, if you decide to change colors each row, or color that you chose, and just how it fits, if it works out. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know down in the comments and I will do my best to help. Feel free to check out my Depop and my Etsy to see crochet stuff that I'm selling. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!